Now we want the chest to be able to target that loot to create new copies of it. So we'll go edit the script on the chest, and in the same way that we're targeting the player when the level starts, we want to make a new variable so we can target the coin or the loot. So go to properties, we want a new variable, set true false I. Let's set, this will be an instance, and we'll change I to loot. And we're targeting the player by the tag player. We're going to target the loot by the tag loot. So we'll go to sensing, first instance by tag loot. Okay, so we're all ready to create new loot objects now. So let's make a function to do this. So we'll go to functions, to do something, drag that out, and we'll call this spawn loot. Spawn loot. And when do we want to spawn loot? Well, we want to spawn loot when this happens, when the chest opens, when all these coins to come pouring out. So we'll go to functions, grab spawn loot, and we'll do that in there. And how much loot do we want to come out? Well, spawn loot will only create one loot, a piece of loot. We'll go and do that next. But if we get this spawn loot function to repeat itself 6 times, or maybe 5 times, however, maybe 10 times, using the repeat loop from control flow, if we grab repeat 10 times, any block that goes inside this repeat 10 times block will be repeated 10 times. So it'll constantly check if it's overlapping the player, and if it wasn't, it's going to set open to true. It's going to play the open animation, and then it's going to spawn loot, spawn loot, spawn loot, spawn loot, spawn loot 10 times. So that's how that repeat loop works. Let's only do this 6 times. It depends how much loot you want to create. Now, how are we actually going to create the loot? How are we going to spawn it? In here, what do we want to do? We want to create a new instance. The block for this is from draw, under class, create new instance of class, right at the top there. Create new instance of class. Class right now is undefined. There's nothing in here giving it a value. There's no set block for class, so we'll get rid of that. I'm going to create a new instance of whatever the coin is. So we'll go to variables, and we know that we're saving the loot as an instance, and that won't go in there. This wants to take a class data type, but this is an instance, a single object of a class. So we need to grab a block from sensing, which will get the class of that one particular instance. We want this block here, under class, inside sensing, class of myself. We don't want the treasure chest making more treasure chests, so we'll get rid of myself. We want it creating more of loot. So, class of instance loot. Great. Shall we test this out now, see what it does? Now the coins, where are they? Well, they aren't here. We need to be positioning them.